Good afternoon and welcome to another in our series of program Talk Sports. In fact, it's the Saturday Sports Special. And this week is a bit of a difference because some time ago in a discussion with a viewer, a suggestion was made about providing an opportunity for the public to make an input from time to time in the program. Well, I studied it and thought about the pros and cons, but eventually decided that the viewer made a compelling case, that is to gauge the feedback from the public. So, as indicated last week, that this weekend will be a bit of different in terms of an open discussion where the viewers can chime in with their suggestions, their observations, their feedback, and anything to do with the development of sports in Grenada. And so today it's an opportunity for those who are under the couch to come out from under the couch and let's hear your views in an open discussion. And I know that we have quite a number of folks who have been clamoring for an opportunity to share some views, to provide feedback on some of the issues that were raised in previous programs. Some have not been able to be on the live program itself, and thus you catch up on the replays and the recordings, and thus they have some things to say, and giving them that opportunity. Um, One of those we have here with us today is Mr. Glenn Alexander. Glenn,
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
good afternoon to you, Glenn. And I think Glenn is representing, well, I shouldn't say representing, but he's a proud resident of the Northeast community, combined Northerners to be exact, and also involved in the J.W. Fletcher Secondary School. So let's hear what you have to talk about, Glenn. What's happening in your community?
Well, basically, Combined Northerners was started in February of 1989, and we from 1989 to 2019. Of course, you will know that it's 30 years, and for the persons who have been involved with the club, somehow that slipped through the grapevine. And so after a few months ago, I decided to go back to assist Combined Northerners. And I said, we need to really, it's 30 years the club have been existing. And so we need to do something about that. And so the adage 30 years and kicking came up. And then we decided we were going to do it over a year period. And here come COVID sort of upsetting everything that we have planned.
Wow, sorry to hear that, Glenn. Oh, we getting a sort of feedback from you on your side there. So
Uh, I'm not too sure. Let me see if I had a monitor on, so let me just take it
yeah,
off and
I
see
think
if it's,
I think it might be your
it's
monitor. Yeah. So so okay, COVID has interrupted the plans for now.
for
So
now, yes.
yes, for now. So what are some of the contingency you have in place so that in going forward that
As as a matter of fact, it gave us an opportunity to sort of look back uh, and to reorganize, re-energize in going forward as a club. One of the areas we wish to look at is the constitution. And you and I would know the way clubs are being organized these days. It's much to be desired. And so um, one of the things we want to get off the ground and running again, we have a committee in place to look at the constitution because there are so many different stakeholders to bring in from what we had before. Back then, when we started, there were no women's football, there were no parents as part of the stakeholder. And so this has to be revived and really fit in with the new era.
And you are getting sort of cooperation, commitment from the community.
Well, I need to make an appeal. I think one of the things that has hurt the club is the issue of leadership. We started off with Ken Lewis, and in speaking to him last night, he said you are his good friend. Um, so hopefully, one of these days, you can get him to really speak up about his earlier days in Northerners. We had Carl Phillip, and after Ken and Carl, um, I think for some years, Bernardine Andrew sort of took the reign, but it's more or less single handedly. And in my view, nothing has really happened. So in recent times, we sort of reconstitute an organizing committee, and I'm happy to say persons like Keith Ventu and Joseph James, who were more or less foundation persons for Northerners. They are still part of that group. And you have Kenny Batiste, who has been the coach for some time. But besides that, there has not been, in my view, a collaborative effort to get the work done. Mike, you would know what the Northeast brings to sports on island. And I think coming from the Northeast of St. George in particular, we really need to have a proper club structure. And I'm making an appeal out there to persons, while they might not be playing the sports, but Mike, we really need persons to come out and organize. If you take a drive through to the northeast of St. George, there's so many young persons up there. We need to cater for that because it will be hell for us as future. We have Willis Youths, we have Hampshire United, you have Tempe All Blacks, which forms part of the Northeast. But how many of these clubs and many other clubs that are organized to cater for the ability to take care of the social and other well-being of the young people, in particular, who are placed in our care?
Okay, then good to hear. But and in addition to that, the entire club structure, as you're speaking about there, because if we go back to the history of sports in the Northeast, it was not just about football. It was
When
cricket. It was
when
about
we
netball. You
oh
know,
yes,
track
when
and
we
field.
start when we started, sorry to cut you, but when we started off, um, we started off as Combined Northern Sports and Cultural Club. You may also remember we also had a netball team attached to the club. We even had a Monday night mass band as part of the club. But somehow over the years, these kind of involvement and in terms of spreading the wings. And I say to myself, these days, in particular with football, it's just a group of guys who's just going to kick a ball. And I think the sports need much more than that.
All right. Nice to hear that. So I know you're wearing two hats today on this program, and again,
Many
yeah, well, many. It's an open discussion. So Glenn is actually chiming in on Northeast. You'll be chiming in also on
JW
JW
Fletcher.
Fletcher, and we'll be going in and between because I see we have someone here again. That's Robert, Robert Samuel. So Glenn, let me just go to Robert for a while, and
No problem.
Robert, good afternoon to you, and what's happening in the neck of your woods, man?
Afternoon. Thanks for having me. I'm good. I'm good. I'm sorry for being a bit late. I just came back from doing some shopping, so I
No,
came a bit late. Yeah,
that
and I had to do some work at the office, so I just tried to kill two birds with one stone. So I'm at the office right now.
that's fine. That's all right. It's open discussion. So what's happening in your area, Robert?
Nothing much to talk about. Except that today we have the semifinals of the Pure Grenada Cup. And it's really something to look forward to because due to the COVID, there's nothing much happening in sports in Grenada. So as we get a chance to look at some football, some parish football. Parish football should be on a level just above the Premier League. It's a perfect opportunity to see some national talent, the future stars. So yeah, we have some football this afternoon. We have the first game at 6 o'clock. St. Patrick Crown City Strikers versus Big Parish Stars. And at 8:15, you should see the St. George Royal Cannons versus St. Mark Western Stars.
You have been involved in the commentary of, the game so far. What you think of the standard? I mean, thinking about the guys have not been able to be involved in so much competitive football and training. What you think about the standard despite the conditions?
Um, it's easy for me to make the excuse of saying, well, oh, they haven't played football in the past few months and probably lack of training and so forth. But even before the COVID, you weren't seeing that much better football. And it's a lot to be desired. Sometimes it's really tough making the calls in terms of the commentary because the quality of football is not the best.
Mhm.
We have seen good football from the under 17 team, good
Oh,
structure.
oh, good to
Um,
hear that.
yeah, and that's a good sign for the future.
Mhm.
And you have seen a similar style from the St. Andrew team, not consistent, but you have seen it. But the other teams they are lacking a lot, and it's not only the consistency, but it's just poor execution of technique, poor execution of just what they have learned in training. I mean, and at this level, as I said, it's a level that should be just above the Premier League. This is a chance for the national coaches to have a look at players they probably didn't get a chance to look at before. But I mean, give us some time still, right?
But I was talking about the coaches having an opportunity to look at players. You have been seeing the games after games. Any names that we should be looking out for?
I think it's the same names. I mean, is for example, out of St. Patrick, you have the midfield general, Chad Mark.
Right.
And Chad is relatively young. Chad is probably 22, 23 in that region. He's excellent. He's excellent. But again, you have seen Chad the last year or two on the national team, though not being selected consistently, but he has been a part of the outfit. Um, Nobody really is outstanding for St. George. Um, Let me see. The U17, as I said, you have a few of them. You have, remember this name, Keyshawn Clark. He's about 15, 16. He's from, I think, the Paradise area. Really outstanding. And there's another one, Shondell Mitchell. These guys really, really outstanding. There's another Philip. Can't remember his first name. He's a Philip in the midfield for the U17. These guys are guys to look at in the future. Um, let's look at let me see, St. Mark. You have the consistent guys like Moran Philip and Ali Moy Augustine who's emerging. He has not had the best of tournament, but he is one to look at as well. But it is sad to say that at the age of 24, 25, I am saying, oh, he's one to look at. He should have been actually been talking about 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds. But it's only those who probably had a few national caps or a few seasons on the Premier League that you can really look at. But we need to see um, more youths coming forward from, again, 17, 18, 19. Because when we look at the bigger world, the athletes, the sprinters, the footballers, the cricketers, whoever it may be, regardless of the sporting discipline, they've been showing prominence from a very early age, and we are not seeing enough of that here in Grenada.
Mhm. All right. Well, it's glad to hear that from you, and I want us to talk more because we have the well, preparing for the CONCACAF,
Yes.
and World Cup qualifiers and all that. But I just want to bring in Glenn, who was talking about the Northeast, because Glenn, you also had you also, well, I think it was the under 17 youth footballers from your area, from the Northeast, participating in I think it was probably a year ago or so in GFA competition. What has happened to that? What
Well,
happened to these youngsters rather?
you have some guys who went up. You had Jamie, who now who is struggling to be a part of the St. George's outfits. But presently, we actually have a U15, U19 team and a senior team been preparing. We have had engagements, and so the U15 team is doing very well in the Sanders U15. As a matter of fact, they have a game today at 2. But all in all, we're really trying to see how we can bring them together and get the best out of them, and most importantly, have them organized. My chump word, Michael, is not just to have a group of guys going out to play football, but see how we can work for the all-round development. And I think that that is critical.
Mhm. Well, while you're that, as you say, you're wearing many hats. What's about the J.W. Fletcher Secondary School? I hope I have the correct name.
As a matter of fact, yes, it's J.W. Fletcher Catholic Secondary School, but
Catholic Secondary. Mhm.
as it relates to football, we are dubbed Royal Saint Forces. We've been adopted by the Royal Grenada Police Force, so the junior footballers um, of the school. So we have two teams: the U19, the U15 team, and we also have a girls team. And they started off doing well in the GFA Women's Football competition, and it's something for me, while I may have six teams to deal with, but just because of the love of it, and I know the experience these children can get as a result of this engagement, we do have these teams. And St. Forces is playing this afternoon too at the Queen's Park. As a matter of fact, we take on the likes of Rangers this afternoon.
Okay, then. Well, overall, sports at the school. Sports overall at the school.
Well, overall, I guess everybody knows the household name, Kelsey Morel. She has not had the opportunity to well, we know what COVID has done. We also have one guy, Shonda Clark. He's also on the national outfit. We have a few girls who are in the under 15 training for the national team. You would know the name Ruth Lewis, who has played for the female team. I think U15, U17. And so, as it relates to sports, we are there. What they say? Small school, big impact.
All right, then. Well, glad to hear that. So, back to you, Robert, and preparations. What is happening on the ground in terms of preparation for, in terms of a national team? Anything? Any movements thus far?
Well, the national senior team has been in training, though without a permanent coach, because now the GFA is still in search of a permanent senior head coach. So in the interim, the technical director Jerry Alexis, he has been coaching the team. So they have been preparing, although the tournament has been postponed until next year. So then you will have qualifiers, you will have Gold Cup and all the likes next year. So it's going to be a packed season for the national team next year. I mean, but next year is only what 3 months away.
Yeah, well, indeed. But looking at the draw, yeah, the draw
Yeah,
with well,
Panama, Honduras, and
Qatar.
Qatar.
Qatar is the invited team, but Qatar, who is hosting the next World Cup, obviously it can be just a fluke, okay?
No,
And
no,
obviously Panama and Honduras with a bit of more experience over Grenada. Honduras in particular, Grenada played Honduras in previous Gold Cup tournaments, and the score lines were not too favorable.
yeah,
But coming off of the qualifying, Grenada getting to that qualifying stage, the team was really on a high. One
yes,
hopes that there could be a level of momentum. What's your thoughts?
yeah, and that momentum, well, it's unproven if it's been unbroken or broken, sorry, due to the COVID, because the national team hasn't gotten a chance to play a friendly, and that's where you might gauge where we are. If you get a few friendlies, probably play against teams in the region, probably at Trinidad, St. Vincent, Barbados, play somebody and get to see where we are. That is, it's not a matter of really winning or losing, but it's just a gauge where we are. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the team made it on the merits of the foreign base, and I somewhat agree. It's mostly on the efforts of the foreign base players, the quality of the foreign base players that we had. But you can have the strongest team, and if you don't have the good coaching, then you're nothing.
Okay, but looking on to the Pure Cup, you're seeing talents that you think can be molded into the senior team?
Yeah, there are one or two guys. Like I said, there's the likes of a Chad Mark. I would love to see a part of. And you know what, Bascom, because of COVID and because of flying restrictions and quarantine and so forth, you may have a challenge with bringing back a few of the foreign-based players, especially those coming from the United States and from England. So this is a chance for more of the local-based players to play and to prove their worth, because they get upset a lot of times when you have half or three-quarter of the team being foreign-based. But it's a quality. It's a quality that these foreign base brings. In the past, you might have only brought back 2 or 3, and they come back a day or 2 before the game, and people say, "Oh, they're not worth it." But when you see you having a starting 11 with all 8 and 9 foreign base, and you see how they gel together, and it's because they come from that experience and a higher level of football. You see what they bring to the table. So local based players might get upset, but they have to show their words. It's not just talk. You have to prove your words. And this is a chance, because of COVID, to raise your hand, say, "Hey, I'm ready," and not just say it, but prove to the coach that you're ready. And again, they would need games. You need games to prove yourself.
I know, I know you're laughing at your boy.
Yeah, my boy Toro.
All right, Toro. Yeah. Okay then. So as again, it's an open discussion. Roger is Roger is joining us now. That's Roger Augustine. We also have Robert. We have Glenn. Let's say good afternoon to Roger. Good afternoon to you, Roger Augustine.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are we doing?
Yes, we're doing fine, man. What's happening? What's happening on your side?
Well, we're there. We continue to keep our athletes motivated and go through their paces. I'm encouraging the parents as usual to try and get their athletes out. It's quite challenging. I think we really have to probably re-educate our teachers, about athletes and or students who have other curricular activities outside of academics, because it doesn't seem like most people understand, athletes, the training, when they have to let's say get to training for a particular time, and that they could work around the assignments. Now I see some Zoom classes even starting at 3 p.m. and at least should have been training from 2:30 or 3 o'clock. And because, outside getting darker earlier, you can't have the people, children, having to look for a bus, or for those of us who are not, committed and are providing rides for them children to go home, those who may have to go and catch a bus, depending on where they're staying, it's quite challenging for them to get to. So I think all in all, helping athletes to get to the next level takes a whole community approach. And I think in Grenada, when I was growing up, you had children wanting to participate in sports and not necessarily getting the parents' help. Now you have parents actually going out of the way and trying to give the children the help. But we have a system that does not really allow for the children to capitalize on things like that. But outside of that, we're doing what we can. We trying to get ready for hoping that Grenada doesn't get a second wave, so our athletes can really go out there and get some meaningful competition. It's sad, I mean, my daughter is already in Form 3 and she never had an intercall.
Oh, wow.
Such a nice, bright prospect, before you know it, she'll be going into Form 4 and there'll be no intercall.
All right,
would have gone through 4 years of secondary school without any intercall.
You mentioned Zoom a while ago. I wanted you to just zoom in on your face a bit. When I say zoom in on your face, so that they can see, don't hide your face, But yeah, I wanted you talking about your daughter, and for those who don't know, well, you can introduce your daughter to the public, because she will be, and I'm saying it again, when I see talent, I identify talent. She is one of our brightest prospects in terms of female on the track. And I'm glad to see that you as a parent and showing that you're providing that sort of support. And you're one who was on the program recently supporting encouraging other parents in terms of, the recording and archiving of their kids' talents.
Yeah, and I think it was, I think looking at the Kirani James story when Transworld Sports came to Grenada to film Kirani. I mean, you couldn't find old tapes of Kirani. Not even the media could have given you good quality stuff and dare I say, the young man was still in secondary school, running and running well. And we don't have good quality stuff. If it wasn't probably for the coach who would have taped a couple stuff, and maybe GBN, I think, had one or two clips, small as it be, it challenges. So yes, my daughter name is Shanti Augustine, and I play a very active role in her training, in her meals, in her rest, in everything. She also plays steel pan, and so sometimes from training, I'm bringing her home to get a quick shower, to go all the way to steel pan, and from pan sometimes I sit at the entire pan session, and then I go back with her, or I may go and then come back and meet her for pan. So I'm very much involved in my daughter's life, and I'm encouraging other parents when I see them to play an active role in your children's life. You may not understand how much that helps them get to the next level, but it is a joy for children when their parents are playing an active role in their lives. And as a father, you know what the saying is on the street in most Caribbean countries, that fathers aren't there, they're absent, and I don't want that for my children. And Shante is steadily improving with our coach. Our coach is Albert Joseph, and and not only Shante, I see some good prospects that come mini meet, and come the next opportunity, there will be other names besides Shante Augustine coming from our club that people would say, wow, we didn't realize Grenada have these young talents here, and they're looking so good. And if we get the private sector to assist and the stakeholders to play the social role, because the gentleman you had a few days ago when you were talking basketball, I mean, he made a good point. He said when he was growing up, it was only the elders playing basketball, and for them to get noticed or to be sponsored, they went around and basically went into the private sector to get sponsorship so that the younger players can start developing, and therein lies the youth tournaments. And in Grenada, the outside of the national primary school games, there is a lack of competition for the younger athletes to want to come out and compete and get really involved in loving the sport and learning the sports and wanting to do well. So hopefully, with the likes of me getting involved in track and field, and we'll be going to the business places, and we'll be having good and fruitful discussions with the stakeholders and so on. And we'll see what happens, Michael. I really plan to get involved and to make an impact in sports, not just for my daughter's sake, but for all the young athletes and the people who want to get the exposure and so on. I really am going to go out and do my best.
Okay then. Well, thank you very much, Roger. I know you on the job now, and thanks for being part of the program. Okay.
You're welcome, brother.
Okay then. Thank you very much. Well, we still do have Glenn and Robert, but I want to go over, because I know Robert has to be at the stadium later on, and I want to, pick his brain on some other things late, and also Glenn has to, give some additional information. But I want to go to the Northern Parish. I want to go to the historic parish of St. Patrick and welcome Mr. Carl Andal. He's also the acting principal of MacDonald College. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Andal.
Afternoon, sir. How you doing?
I'm fine, and nice to see you. Nice to hear from you. What's happening in the neck of your woods, Mr. Andal?
All sorts of things are happening, but I must say I also have to go to the stadium in a while.
Okay. Well, it seems as if big things are happening in the stadium later.
Yes, because currently I'm the manager of Crown City Strikers, and we are coming up against St. Andrew at 6 p.m.
Wow.
Right.
Great.
So right now.
Well, while you are that, see that you're matcher. Let's hear about Crown Cities. What are the prospects? What has been happening with Crown Cities in terms of their march towards the championship?
Currently, Crown City is a very exciting team, and I must say I'm proud to say that MacDonald College Crown City goes hand in hand, because as we speak, I have at least 15 players past MacDonald College students. So it's good territory for us. We have a very exciting bunch of young players, people like Leon Braveboy, DeAndre Smith, Brady Charles. Brady Charles had a short stint in Germany sometime last year. He went up with a club up there, and he was due to return this year. But because of the COVID, he was unable to do so. Leon Braveboy has been attracting many coaches the all over. COVID once again has prevented him from leaving our shows. And I heard Mr. Samuel spoke about Chad Mark, we have Rickson Phillip. Really and truly, the Crown City players. It's a very young bunch, it's an experienced bunch. And as we speak, we have a good mixture of past, current, and prospective national players. So personally, we're excited. It remind me of a SAS McDonald College meetup once again, because when I look at the composition of the St. Andrew team, they are very good players also. Abraham and Montel and others. So it's kind of deja vu. Yes, it's parish versus parish, but it's looking like SAS MDC.
Okay then. Well, I'm certain that Robert will have something to add to that, because as as one of those who have been following all the matches, and you heard some names, Robert.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, I'm ashamed of myself that I didn't call the names of Leon Braveboy and Brady Charles. DeAndre Smith to an extent, but Brady Charles, combining with Chad Mark in the midfield, and then still again linking up with Leon Braveboy. Those three have been exceptional. I still have a slight problem with Leon Braveboy. He's very skillful, but at times could be a bit selfish and could take the game too much on his own rather than incorporating his players. But he's young. He's 19, 20, so he's going to grow out of it. But really exciting player to look at. Really bright prospect. And yes, Stephon Abraham of the Big Parish Stars, one for the future. Okay, similar to Leon Braveboy as well.
So you see, as I said, Mr. Bascom, it's an excellent matchup. And what is exciting about this, these players have been playing together at the youth parish level as well as the national level since under 15. So they play under 15, under 17, under 20, even under 23. So I am telling you that's a cracker. It's just a pity that we are not allowed more persons at the stadium. In the preliminary matches, we are only allowed 50 persons. I don't really know the figure for tonight, but I know that's a good game.
Yeah. I mean, well, you as a manager, Mr. Handel, how are you going to combat with, because most of Crown City goals have come from the midfield. Chad Mark, Brady Charles, Leon Braveboy, they're all roughly on 2 goals. I think probably Brady probably has 3, but then your back line, Monroe, he has 3, and your strikers only have 1. Rickson Phillip was a regular starter. He's a striker. He has 1. And off the bench, Keno Alexander only has 1. Your strikers have not been clicking. How are your strikers going to click tonight?
Mr. Samuel, 3/4 of the players are McDonald College players. I also want you to know that the staff, most of the staff, myself, Mr. Glynn, Mr. Franklin Battis, the goalkeeper coach, Mr. Cornbud, the physiotherapist, Mr. Shane James, current McDonald, past McDonald College staff. And very good observations that you made, and I'm telling you, we have already made the changes to accommodate that. Right. But I'm keeping it close to my chest. So we could have that discussion perhaps after the game. But
you don't want to let it go to the bag.
At all, not at all.
Nice to hear that. So just coming away to so lots in stake for this afternoon, well, this evening rather. And I guess as much as you say, it's a bit disappointed, but we have to understand that not much people will be able to be at the stadium. But I think, Robert, it will be stream live, okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So it will be stream live. So folks, wherever you are, you will be able to watch the game later on. But Mr. Andal, what's about McDonald College in terms of 2021 preparations? I'm getting a bit worried now because you're speaking about 15 members of your team. Well, I'm not sure if it's 15. but quite a bit of players are current McDonald College students.
No, I did not say current. We have
Oh,
current
and former.
and former. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
but
current and former.
you have current. You have current. So it means
Yes.
that these guys are getting some good match practice ahead of the 2021 Intercol Football Championship. Okay.
Mr. Bascom, don't forget, we are four-time champions.
I
Four-time champions.
I know,
Consecutive.
and that's why I say I'm beginning to be worried. You know.
Well, you see, you should not be worried, because as I normally would tell persons, the villages, communities we get children from, they are known for football.
Right.
Because remember, so our task at the school is just bringing them together. So, for example, when you keep on getting kids like Chad and others from Rosehill, from Riversally, from Montreach, from Tivoli, from Montcraven, Shantimel, these are known football areas. And I must say, though, with no formal academies, these are known football areas. So we at the school is just a matter of we get them together, we get them to gel, we provide any support we want for them, and we go forward. Because well, it's not 2021, because I understand that they have plans to have a football tournament this year among the secondary schools. Something which I don't agree with you.
Glenn, you agree? As for JW Fletcher Catholic Secondary School?
Well, as a matter of fact, everything seemed to be opening up. So if GFA football can be played, I do not think we should not allow our secondary school students in particular to play, because they are playing for clubs. And so what might be the issue might be the timing and maybe following the protocol. But if you have been following the news, you would see some release saying that the Ministry of Health has asked the Ministry of Education to discontinue the spacing at the schools.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Carl?
Very interesting, Mr. Alexander. I'm aware of all what you say, because as you say, I'm also the principal.
Yes.
But we are saying that no social distancing in school anymore. We are saying that buses could go to full capacity. But tonight at the stadium, we are saying that we only want 50 spectators. Mr. Bascom, it's not an easy thing to sit at the National Stadium. We have the bleachers with a capacity of a few thousand. We have the secondary stands. And yes, we're allowing 50%, but now you're telling me in schools, no social distancing. You're telling me on the buses, no social distancing. Personally, the reasoning behind that is very, very difficult to understand. But however, my take with the school tournament, though, we have lost 6 months of tuition. 6 months of tuition. And I'm telling you, it's rather difficult for me to allow children to lose contact time. Take them away from the school, because no matter what you do, the secondary school games start about 3. So obviously you'd have to leave school before the end of the school day in order to participate. So other than the social distancing, that's a reason for me also.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, and I know they also the talk of bringing them back full time for the week.
Did you see
And
did you see the circular?
yes, I saw the circular. I'm just making but it's something maybe I'm sort of reluctant to discuss publicly. But I think everything it's a process, and one must have duty and attention when we do things. Because as a matter of fact, we know that the borders now are opening. I think that we have a big flight today coming in, and everything seemed to be happening at the same time. And for me, one community spread will be an issue, and we can just fall right back where we are. So I think everything should be processed. I know when I was at my schools, some officials came to find out what is what, and then we have seen this circular, which in my view indicating differently.
Yeah. But it's a very important point that Mr. Andal made, and I think Robert, you in the stadium weekend after weekend, and I mean, we know the setup of the stadium, and he spoke about the bleachers. In fact, there's a secondary pavilion as well. Okay, so I think his point about the 50 limiting to 50 is justifiable in terms of why just 50 when you have a stadium where you have the bleachers that can hold a couple thousand, you have the secondary pavilion, a few thousand again, and probably you can even allow social distancing among the stands itself.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, and I mean I don't understand why, but I think possibly one reason behind it is, all right, you might say that I think the capacity is roughly 8,000. So if you space them out, let's say you skip every two chairs, you should get at least 3,000 or even or 2,005 or so inside there. I think the challenge really is how do you maintain social distancing when they go into the bars, when they go into the washrooms, when they in this to the stadium, from the stadium. I think that's a challenge having all these hundreds of people. It calls for a lot of security, a lot of police. I think so. I think on that basis, but 50, I think is way too small, and no sportsman, whether football, cricket, you name it, wants to play to empty stadium. You want, whether you're in front, whether you're behind, you need the fan support. You need
I think that would change by the finals.
Yeah, it should. It should. It should. Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed.
Well, Mr. Reddard say he asked for initially when we met with Wagiti, he asked for 500.
Yeah.
Yeah, he asked for, which was reasonable, which was 1,000, and he expected the numbers to increase as we go along. But the borders are opening up. The bosses, you're sitting shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think Margaret is saying that there is no process in this. Go with the science. If you have buses at full capacity, there's no reason why you cannot have more people in the stadium. The chances that being outside is far better than inside. A bus is actually more dangerous than the stadium. That's just pure science. So,
Mike, I'm wondering if the organizers, because it's a matter of finance for the organizers, if they came forward to make that request and do the analogy with the Boston. So I do not know. It possibly should have been something being done when you realize what is happening with the buses and know what is being said re-school, because the stadium is in my view is more open than that of being in a bus. So we don't know if the organizers probably make the request for the increase, or if they were just playing a waiting game. And I know in Grenada sometimes when we want things to be done, we have to be aggressive to it. Because I would love to go to see games, but I had to take. I usually just take it in on my laptop.
okay then. But Mr. Andel, despite the shortcomings, despite the challenges, Crown City is ready for later.
Well, as I said before, it's without a doubt, because the good thing about it, people as Leon Braveboy, DeAndre Smith, Brady Charles, even Chad Mack and others, the consecutive victories we have had over the last 5 years, they are part of that. So they are champions, and they know what it takes to win.
Okay,
And
go ahead.
no, and as principal, as manager, as coach, both at MDC and Crown City, I believe we have what it takes to get the best out of them. So it's just a matter to go out and execute. Mr. Samuel, I heard you did some commentary last game, and we will have a chat about that.
well, now that you spoke about Crown City, and we do not have anyone to represent the other team, I probably may allow Robert not to represent St. Andrews, but because he has seen the the talent from the others, probably what say you, Robert, about tonight's matchup?
I think it's a real tough one because Mr. Andel speaks about winning consecutively championships at the secondary school level, but the bulk of the St. Andrew Big Parish Stars, they play for Paradise. So if you're going to talk about winning consecutively and consistently on a high, they play for Paradise. And Paradise has been dominating the Premier League for the past 10 or more years. They have won more Premier Leagues and Wagiti Super Knockouts than any other team in the last 10 years. And a lot of these players have been a part of those championship teams. Whether it's the Rennie family, because you know half of them playing for Paradise and playing on the big Paris Stars, and then you have the youngsters like a Stephon Abraham, like a Montel Joseph, coming through those ranks and already being a part of winning teams. It's a challenge. I honestly believe it's a hard call, and it's only going to be decided on the field, um, because structure-wise, knocking pretty football, I give St. Andrew the edge. But in terms of depth and experience, I still give the edge to St. Patrick. So both have the advantages and the disadvantages. And again, it's going to be a tough call, and let's see what happens later. Whoever can hold their nerves, because we saw that in the absence of Leon Braveboy, Chad Mark, we saw what happened to St. Patrick last week. They didn't look themselves against St. Mark. Joe only losing 2-0 because St. Mark themselves, they also made a few changes, but St. Patrick didn't look as strong without those two players. And I'm not even going to mention the likes of Atoko Daniel and Akid Wellington, who are not a part of this squad completely, and what they could have brought on top, given that St. Patrick is lacking in goals on top. All 80% of the goals are coming from the midfield or on the defense. So let's see what happens. Again, I'm still concerned about your strikers, Mr. Handel.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, your concerns are well founded. Right. And you see the St. Mark's game. Don't put too much emphasis on the St. Mark's game, because we know exactly what we were doing during the St. Mark's game. We know exactly what we were looking for in the St. Mark's game. And personally, coming off 2-0 was still a bonus for us.
Okay.
Because the team that we fielded then was perhaps like part of our weakest team.
Okay. But then St. Andrews have Darren Mudu, who has scored in every game that he has played in. They have Cedra Lewis, a national striker who has international experience.
You say every game. That was just 2 games.
It's every game. It's every game. That's 3 goals in 2 games.
But gentlemen, what's the weather like? What's the weather like? I saw some photos of it appears that there was some flooding in the Tantine area today.
Yeah. A lot of rain, but right now the sun is out, so it's beautiful.
Well, the weather is funny because up here is hot.
Yeah, I'm steaming where I'm at.
Okay, well, good to know. Because as you said, Glenn, there should be some football as early as 2:00 today, right?
2:00. There is a double header at the Queen's Park.
Okay, and that's involved the youth, right? Youth football.
U15 preseason Sandals.
Sandals. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know that despite the COVID and despite the challenges, that at least something is happening in terms of sports. Guys, any concerns in your neck of the woods, things that you want to discuss? I mean, if I start with Mr. Andal, I think he will be speaking from now until, But definitely, I know there are some concerns, Mr. Andal.
You mean concerns related to?
Sports development, yeah. What are some of the things that you want to see? And probably going into the new dispensation of 2021, I think COVID would have presented some challenges and probably would have presented some opportunities as well. And there's a need for us to rethink certain things, not everything, and probably going forward. And I use 2021 because it seems as if in terms of major sports in Grenada, it's not until probably the next few months we will see that, except for what we're seeing now, okay? But what would you like to see change, refine, whatever it is in terms of sports development in Grenada?
Well, once you start on that, it's never ending. Yeah, so we will just have to pinpoint a few areas. But as Mr. Roger Augustine said earlier, the mindset of a lot of persons. He spoke about teachers, but I won't just say teachers. Teachers, parents also. A lot of persons tend to see sports as a hindrance. You understand? So it's like a lot of teachers, even teachers themselves, will encourage kids. Come on, you should not take on sports so much. That will cause you to fail. Sports people are dance people, and that is not true. And what is dreadful about that? It does amaze me when someone beat athletics, beat Kirani, football, or somebody make it big. Everybody tend to jump on board. And what has been disgusting is that the kids need the support from the one. They don't need support in sports when they make it at the highest level. So I think because people like Brady, Charles, and others, Brady did excellent in school. Brady have 9, 10 CXC subjects. And right now I'm working with some guys in the United States to see if we could get a scholarship for him. People like Shab and John Brown, they passed through and they did well also. So this is one of the things we must get rid of. And the only way we could do that is through education. A lot of our kids, they are not disciplined. And one thing I'm certain of, sports could help them holistically. Some of our kids, when time to study, they find it very difficult to study because they have no discipline. It's very difficult for them to follow a pattern doing something over and over again. And that's something that you get in sports. So the general mindset must change. Secondly, it's time for you to get rid of insularity in sports. You know, Mr. Bascom, when persons talk about Black Lives Matter in the States, I'll just laugh. Because we have the most insularity and racism in Grenada. Not the insularity and racism we have is not based on race. A lot of the time it's based where you're from. And I'm saying is that anytime we select a team, especially a national team, I think we should go all out to select the best. So that's just two of the issues I want to highlight. The mindset of the general public where sports is concerned and the insularity in the sports.
Well, thought out, and I think probably when Robert and Glenn add, you may be able to think of some more. Glenn, well, no, let's go to Robert first.
You know, Mr. Handel speaks about the insularity and prejudice, and I'm certain that he's speaking about that tongue and country, tug of war. That is there. It's there. On what level I'm not too sure, but it's there. And what is surprising to me though, and as you may call me a tongue man, is that the bulk of our national teams, football, cricket, track and field, the bulk of the players, they come from the country. And yet for all, you have people crying out, oh, them tongue fellas, boy, them tongue. The coaches, the administrators, the bulk of them are from the outer parishes, but yet for all, you still hear that cry for a settling of that tongue and country. I don't know. So let's see how that pans out. But I know for a fact that we as Grenadians, we are very tribal. And people stick to their own and support their own, regardless of how well their team is doing or a certain sporting talent is doing. They stick to their own.
You mean tribal? When you say tribal, you're referring to sports, eh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, I would love to see a greater discipline, as he said. I encourage athletes to play board games like chess and draft and so forth, because it strengthens your mind in terms of your patience, your application, to strategize. These things help. And it's a fact that he's also right in terms of a lot of them complain about having that focus, that long focus. They get too easily distracted, so they can't settle for long to repeat certain things. But it's a challenge that we have to take up. And those of us who can do it, we have to do it, because you know what? In the States in particular, you can be as good as you like on the basketball court, on the football field. If your GPA drops below a certain level, you get cut from the team. In Grenada, you can repeat a form as much as you like. You can be a failing student and you make the intercall team, you make your cricket team, you make the football team, and no one says, hey, you're going to get dropped because. So we also encourage that imbalance. You have to pong into them. You're a student athlete. You're not an athlete student. You are first a student, then you are athlete, and that has to be encouraged. So we as administrators, we have to change our approach I have seen too many guys failing at school, failing in the academics, but they are still a part of the sporting team because they can kick a ball or they can run fast. Man, we're going to fail them for life because by the age of 35 or even less, you're done with sports. What happens next? You have your life to live. You have your family to support. And too many times we see a lot of national athletes asking for a handout, because they didn't do that well academically, and no one pushed them enough to say, look, yeah, you're good at whatever you're doing, but you also have to focus on your academics, and there have to be that balance.
All right. Well, is it's good that you made that point there, Robert, because I know, for example, the boys and girls champs in Jamaica, the athletes, for them to be part of their team at the boys and girls championship, their academics must be, must be in line. I know of athletes, good athletes who have not been able to compete in the boys and girls champs in Jamaica simply because of their academics. They could not have been on the team. Sometimes you hear about injury and thing, but I recall when I was there a few years ago doing some work for the IWF, we had that experience where some of those athletes were not able to compete in the boys and girls champs because of their academics. Before I go to Glenn, Gary Chance is saying we really need to revisit our strategy. I don't want to point fingers, but we have certain clubs which are much smaller than the stadium that host events on a weekly basis with a capacity of 50 plus. We have Catamaran Cruise, which is full to capacity. Where are the protocols? Because it's a sporting event rather, it's treated as such. So going over to Glenn, what's your take now, Glenn? What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, I think the issue of more involvement, more members of the community coming forward to assist in administrating. Let the coaches coach, let the players play. And there are lots of off the field activities that need to be organized. Um, in some instances, as I said before, it's just a group of fellas going out to play. But when you look at, let's say, the social aspect of or the financial aspect of everybody who's supposed to be a part of the structure. We're not perfect humans, and there are ways and times in which the club, and I'm saying club now, the organization can be a home away from home for individuals. I think that is critical, and just to sort of piggyback on Northerners, Northerners. Outside of struggling them in the earlier years, we have not really had a structure. Sometimes it's a one man show, a one woman show. That and at the end of the day, smoke coming from your ears and one is tired. But there are other persons and individuals and professionals who might be from the same community who might volunteer to assist with the club's programs and activities and ensure that we have structures. I mean, for the Pure Cup, is it the no sorry the championship that we had where teams had to have their doctors, and so was that just a one-off? How many clubs have that structure where we can suffice all of these things? And when you come from U15, as a matter of fact, we want to go lower down to U10, U13, U17, and the likes, and each club is expected to more or less surface these teams. How are we to manage this with one and two person, or in some cases it's just the coach? So it must be a collaborative effort, and I think with improvement in structure, we can have improvement in the all-round development of sports in general.
Okay, let us go back to the comments here now. Gary Chance, I say this all the time, that tongue and country thing is worse than racism. For instance, I know of this particular young lady from Guelph, well, that's in St. John, that one female table tennis player for 3 consecutive years and never made the national team because she went shaper, in that case in John's Christian Secondary School, and from Guelph in St. John. She was in top of her class. Well, I really hope this is not the case now, and we have gone past that era. And Shen Hostin is saying, yes, for years, secondary schools have exploited great athletes and not make it their duty to ensure they balance academics and sports. I believe the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Sports should make it mandatory that athletes need to have an acceptable average in order to participate in sports. And I think, Mr. Andal, for example, I know when it comes to the academics and the margin in sports is something that you in particular is very, very strict on, very concerned about, and obviously it's something that I think you have implemented at the McDonald College as well.
Yes, I just look at the comment where the person spoke about secondary school are exploiting athletes. But I want to see the secondary school structure is what have sports on this grounds today. If we didn't have a strong structure, sports structure in secondary school, there'd be no sports in Grenada, without a doubt.
Yeah, I just want to cement that point that sports in Grenada is primarily secondary school-based sports, not club-based, school-based.
Yes, yes.
Most of the sports. So yeah, continue on that point.
Yes, so I would address the marriage of the academic and the sport. What I must say also is that a lot of persons don't understand what's happening, because you see, at the secondary school, a lot of the kids who could play sports, they are from socially disadvantaged homes. So what you find happening, in order to nurture them, sometimes you have to be everything for them. You have to be the mother, the father, you have to supply them with food, supply them with clothes. You understand? It's a lot of investment into them. And it's very, very important to help them with the marriage. So sometimes we have special classes. I know down at St. David's Sec, Dennis Williams do the same thing too, where they have enrichment as well as remedial classes for them. However, though, we still have to be very, very careful to say if someone has reached a certain average, they should not be allowed to play. Because if you're not careful with that, you might have a kid, they might be slow academically, but they are very good in the sport. And I know of cases, a lot of cases, persons went on to make very good lives for themselves, even though they were poor academically. So it's not just a straight case, okay, well, average of 55, average of 60. If you cannot achieve that, we'll deprive you from what you're good at and what you could make something of yourself at. But what I notice also, a lot of persons who are not directly involved, they always tend to be in the know.
That's the point.
Yes, that's the point, yeah.
That's a nice segue, Mr. Andal. Okay, all right. So while Mr. Andal was speaking, I think we had a comment coming in there from Clev is saying, Clev Deputy, in reality, is that an issue or myth perpetuated based on past perception? Though if you do an enough study where national selections are concerned, football or cricket, it will not bear that out. That myth was long destroyed by internal migration, school selections, employment, etc. Let us bury that myth. Then Mike Batiste is saying people have struggled in school in here and move on to improve their academics overseas on scholarship. Very good point. And certainly, yeah, and certainly you can point to some who would have done that. So it's 50-50. You talk nothing but the truth there. That's to you, Mr. Andal. So yes, you're getting some kudos for that. Glenn, I know you just not but you have to unmute your mic, Glenn. You have to. Yes. Yeah, and also someone who's at this J.W. Fletcher Catholic Secondary School, the issues raised there specifically in terms of the marriage between academics and sports, very important for your school as well.
Yeah, one of the issues at J.W. Fletcher, we have a very small staff, and basically in terms of catering for the students, sometimes it's difficult. Primarily, we have track and field and football. So for the football, many times, because I am with them, and I teach that part of the school in the main. Um, we're able to do a little for them, but much more of we have more things to really help out in this situation. And I believe with more persons coming on board, not only that, parents too as stakeholders. Like we see Roger how integral he is in his daughter's life. Sometimes you get a crop of students where the parents they do not even care about the academic. Once they get a chance for the child to be away from the home, that's it. So at school we try, but at the same time more needs to be done for the students who are placed in our care. We talk about Kelsey. She go off, she's usually with the St. David's track blazers in terms of catering for her training aspect, and as schools sometimes we try to chip in to see how we can help her when maybe she might be lagging in assignments and so forth.
Okay then. And Robert, well, I know both Robert and Carl looking at their clocks because the time is kicking down, and I know he has to journey all the way from St. Patrick. But some time ago, we had Mr. Ram Folks, the former president of the Grenada Football Association, and he made the point about the community playing its part, playing its role, and it was to do with the how in Fontenoy, in particular, where he was able to have special classes for those in the community, and they were able to secure scholarships. Do you think we need the communities to be involved, and not just the role of the schools, but also the community playing its part as well?
Yeah, well, it always takes a community to raise a child, and in whatever input that they can do, they can put towards the development of that child, then it is better for them. Last night I grew up in an area and let me tell you who were my neighbors. The late Alistair Clouden, direct neighbor, just across the street from me. Just behind him, Norris Photo. Downstairs from Mr. Photo, Michelle Hercules, and until she built her house just out the road. Raymond Griffith, Alistair DeBella. These are my neighbors, and they all contributed to national development of sports, whether as athletes or administrators. So you have other sporting talents coming through the community just from having that kind of inspiration, the likes of Everett Watts. Again, 2 minutes walk from me. Dwayne Griffith. I mean, these guys all made it through, because when you have these kind of neighbors, it's an encouragement. And if your neighbors have even the influence to get you to scholarships to go abroad, well, it's a plus. Again, it all comes back down to the holistic development of the athlete. And your academics has to be first and foremost. I know there are those who are going to disagree. And I think those who were struggling in school and made it eventually are in the minority. Still, you have those that are struggling and are going to make their national teams, they're going to make their school teams or whatever. And later, you're going to see them struggling in life. That there's too many examples of that. And the focus has to be on developing the human being, developing the holistic aspect of that human being. And yes, the foundation of sports, sad to say, is secondary school. And I use the word sad because your foundation should still be in the primary school. What we see in the primary school, track and field and football, and that's it. So that's where you tend to see the better athletes, and I make reference to football and track and field, making it true because they have that foundation from the primary schools. What happened to playing basketball in the primary schools? What has happened to playing cricket, table tennis, you name it? There must be more sporting development from the primary school level, U11s. You have to have that foundation of proper coaching from since then, or just getting involved in a sport. Just that growing passion has to be from that young stage. Whether you're 5 years old, you're 8, you have to get involved in a sport from a very early age to be a better individual, better sporting individual as you get to your teens. That foundation has to be there from the primary schools. I think greater influence must be placed on the primary schools in having not just track and field and football, but having more sports, swimming, table tennis, lawn tennis, cricket, basketball, let's get more sporting disciplines at the primary school level.
Okay then. Well, let's get some comments, and I know that well, and just to add there because I remember Mr. Folks said that, and he made mention of the likes of Joel Woodruff, Jojo. We call him Jojo, and he was one who actually was, you know, he was planning on quitting school, you know, and he got him back in school, and Jojo is now with what, 2 master's degrees, you know, and doing pretty well, you know. But let's go to the comments. We need a sports development plan. Sports today are no longer just a means of entertainment. It is a lucrative form of employment. We need to invest seriously in sports in Grenada. Today, young people have many distractions due to technology. We need to create incentives for young people to get involved in sports. We need to identify sporting potential at a young age and provide the necessary mentorship and a strong support system. That's Joel Greenwich, who is chiming in with his comments there. But I go back to Mr. Andal because I want to find out from you, Mr. Andal, whether the support from the community is critical for the upbringing of your student athletes, especially at the McDonald College.
It is extremely critical. It's very critical. However, sadly, sometimes you find yourself in a tussle with the community, in the sense that what you're trying to instill at school, the community is advising them differently. So at McDonald College, once we see a child with good potential, we will try our best to help them holistically. And sometimes that has gone as far as even providing monthly support for them. So as we speak, I have a deal with one of our major companies in the South. It's a hotel, to be exact. I won't call name. But this hotel has been sponsoring 2 of our athletes for the last 4 years. And the sponsorship is taking that form. Every month, the relatives or the parents of these athletes could go to a special supermarket and get groceries. You understand? Just to ensure that they have a proper diet. You understand? So we try our best to support, but a lot of the times what you tend to get is that persons will tell some of these athletes, you should not be running for school. You should not be running for school. Anything you do is for the school. And you shouldn't do that. Instead of letting them know that that's an avenue in which they could go far and they could do well for themselves. But Mr. Samuel had a very, very crucial point. And personally, I don't know how we reach that stage where all of a sudden you have little or no sports in the primary schools. I have been having some dialogue with our former Minister of Sports, Mr. Adrian Mitchell, about this. And he recognized the fact that that should not be. Even when that so far tell me that you would have a talk with our Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Mitchell, about this. Because I know without a doubt, the primary schools had all the sporting disciplines, which the secondary school had. And all of a sudden, you're not seeing that anymore. I know Devon Smith, who went on to play as far as West Indies. We discovered him at the primary level. So now we have a situation where minus football, well, in some cases, not even football, because I know in St. Patrick's where I live, the only sport that is played seriously at the primary level is athletics. All the others, the children have to learn the rudiments of the sport when they enter secondary school. And that is not making any sense. Because, you know, if you're talking about U12 and U10 in the football, all these persons would be at the primary level. So you must have a shift. And what I'm saying is that you must have a marriage between education and sports. And that's why, as I say, sometimes it disgusts me when people like Kirani and Anderson Peters do so well. We see how much kudos are given to them. But some persons, if you try to walk them through and tell them, listen, this is what it takes. This is what it takes to have a sportsman at the world level. So, you know, to get someone to get a world medal also, then we'll be in a better position. So some of the people in authority, they have to recognize the fact that, listen, the world cannot just have doctors and lawyers and teachers and bankers and whatsoever. And we believe at MDC that is extremely important to create avenues in any area. If a child is a good singer, we should have avenues for that. We should have avenues so that they could sing, because we know is that singing could be a lucrative career. We don't want a situation where, okay, you're a good singer, but if you're not doing well academically, that's it for you. We don't want that. That's why at Magdalene College right now, we have just commissioned a recording studio and a music room.
Wow.
And I'm
big things. Yes, man. Big things happening, man. Big things.
Yes, and but here's the funny thing about that. So all of us then you would find you would have more Boise, more Terra General, more. There's a long list. These people were able to emerge from Magdalene College without these facilities. So I'm telling you right now, I'm really, really excited, because you know what? We must, in our schools, we must have avenue for the entertainers, the prospective entertainers, for them to come through. So not because, come on, you might do 10 subjects, somebody might do 15, but somebody, entertainment is a thing. And you know the sad story about that, Mr. Bascom? A lot of the times, the entertainers and the sportsmen and the who and who, they could give us a little pocket change, you know, with all our degrees and what.
Yeah. Well, that, you know, that's a nice point you made there in terms of the marriage between not just sports and education, but even culture, you know, the culture,
Definitely.
the arts, you know. And I see some interesting comments coming up there that I need to get to, because yourself and Robert, you know, made some points that I think some of the viewers are agreeing with. But I want to go to Glenn, because Glenn, the point that Mr. Andal is making regarding the primary school, because I know you also involved to some extent with the GUT, that's the Grenada Union of Teachers, sports department, sports committee rather, and the whole issue of sports at the primary school level. So,
Yeah.
what is happening?
Well, first of all, I'm yet to find out why the physical education teacher was removed from the primary system. Additionally, you would know, we are Grenada Union of Teachers and not Grenada Union of Students. And I say this to say, for all the years and for all the parts, most of the primary school activities were organized by the GUT. Sometimes the ministry will help, but I think in this time now, the ministry have to be more forthcoming. I know they also have coaches who used to go to schools and assist, but I believe we need much more than that. Additionally, I know the GFA has its grassroots, and how much of these grassroots programs are synchronizing with the school. So we can ask many questions, we can say many things, but the individual sports, the ministry, and by extension, possibly the GOT, I think we need to come together and ensure that at that level, more activities, more games, more competitions, more festivals are being held, so that these students and these children can get greater exposure. Recently, I learned, I think is it E or F coach, where parents can apply to be this coach, where you just create the opportunity for students, for children to run around and interact and so. But how many of us know that? And at the lower level, what happens most time, it serves as a daycare center in instances. But I think I continue to say, in terms of organizing and catering, and once we start at the lower level, things should be much better. All the attitudes and accolades that is needed in terms of the discipline, training and the likes that is needed, once they start down there and they've been taught and taken through the process to understand the importance of SIM, then I believe we can have a greater spill off nationwide.
Okay, then. Let me go for some of the comments, and then, guys, you'll have to respond, because I told you some of them are very interesting comments. Akim Belfon, this man is saying the same thing I said a while ago on this platform. Develop the youths from primary school, not when they are in secondary school. And we have the great Chenny Joseph. The development of sports on the island starts with our policies at the national level and the ability to show the benefits of a significant opportunity in life. Sports helps the development of the entire human being mentally, physically, psychologically, and educationally. What does the current national sports policy say about these things? Jenny, you're getting into something there that we need a separate program for, boy. But Shen is saying, yes, hence the reason why there should be a fundamental change from the root of fundamental level. If the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Sports setting an academic standard to be met. I wonder if it's not the Ministry of Education. System measures must be put in place to help nurture and develop the student athletes, remedial classes, tutoring, feeding assistance, etc., etc. That's all part of the process. We hear you, Shen, that's true. Pamela Cherubin is saying we have the inter-primary school meets every year, and I think she's referring to swimming. Swimming is a developmental sport, and our swimmers do great in CPA, CXC Cape, and go on to universities. Gary Chance, I know of a particular basketball club on the island. Once they identify the talent and struggling, take the initiative to help financially, also have a tutoring system set for those that needs. Clev, in the past, some of the most deprived athletes came from stigmatized areas in St. George's Wharf, River Road Point, etc. This attitude pre-revolution was extended in an apartheid school system that did not benefit many, such as myself. And Robert Phillip, formerly of teacher of the GBSS, I think he's counselor at the Ministry of Education. He's speaking now to Robert Samuel. You have spoken very intelligently and objectively. One has to pay equal attention to both academics and sport. This is paramount. I have seen situations where athletes are not able to access scholarships because their academics is poor. Yes, develop the talent the student has, but also stress the importance of getting and acquiring a solid education base to move forward. We need to look at this very carefully. Michael Lambert, I could remember when I was in primary school, all the different sports, they had individuals coming to the school to help and teach the kids about it. These are some of the comments. I go to the Northern Parish, St. Patrick. Mr. Andal, St. Patrick with only 2 secondary schools, McDonald College. And by the way, when you say MDC, please stress it's McDonald College. At times it's sung a lot as NDC. But we know it's McDonald College. That's why I try to put up McDonald College. But McDonald College, and then we have the Montrose SDA Secondary School as secondary schools in the parish. Obviously, it's a challenge for all these students to be accommodated at these 2 secondary schools. So obviously there will be the spill-off, some going to St. Andrew, some going to St. Mark, and probably as way down as St. John with the Mount St. Rose and the St. John's Christian Secondary School. So how much is a challenge in terms of, accommodating? And McDonald College will probably be the first choice for a lot of the students in the parish, accommodating all these students at the McDonald College.
We can accommodate all our students, but it's strange because what you find happening, some of the students from St. Patrick would go as far as St. George. So what we have a good intake of students from St. Andrew. Well, it's funny, Posters make selection of schools for various reasons, because our intake is as far as Guelph, St. John, and some of them as far as Marquis in St. Andrew. So it's not really a problem in accommodating them, but be careful what you say about Montrose, because that's my alma mater.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm saying it in the context of two secondary schools, and that in some cases, if you have the choice, some will probably put McDonald College, then Montrose. But among my, I mean, I no disrespect to Montrose. Montrose has have been a powerhouse in sports, especially in cricket.
Definitely.
Yeah, over the years, I know it has spoiled many of championships. And they have produced some top sportsmen and sportswomen in Grenada. But generally, sports in St. Patrick, and in Grenada, but we can zoom in on St. Patrick, has basically been school based because, as you indicated, most of the players from Krong City who will be featuring later on, either current or former students themselves, So, as you indicated, the schools in the parishes and the schools generally play a very integral role in the development of sports in the country.
Yeah, I just want to capture that point. We, St. Patrick, we are blessed with a number of playing fields. And before I came on the program, I was doing a quick count. And we have at least 10 playing fields, quality playing fields in St. Patrick. And interestingly also, out of these 10 playing fields, over 6 are lighted. So what you find happening, our kids have a lot of opportunity to play. The next thing also is country children, country life. They jog a lot of water, they in the garden, they climb the trees, and that's a big difference over kids in the city. So notwithstanding that, whether we have good structure or not, we'll always be producing athletes. And I've come to the realization also that many of our sports people are multi-talented. So a lot of the times you find a good footballer is also a cricketer, or you have football and athletics. The difference between ourselves and Montrose, though, is school structure. College have a strong legacy, a rich tradition of sports. And sometimes, persons take it wrongly. The rich tradition we have in sports is not about school per se, but it's about the overall development of the kids themselves. Because as I said previously, okay, we must give everyone an opportunity to excel. As far as I'm concerned, people tend to have a definition of bright. And they will regard you as bright if you could pass 10, 12 CXC. Or they will regard you as a genius. But as far as I'm concerned, our excellent sportsmen, they are genius also. Someone like Lee's a genius in football. So once we have that mindset, and as I said, I myself, I'm playing a dual role at the moment. That's why you see I'm so involved at the community level, because what I notice is that, not what I notice, our studies let us know that the school is an open system. It's difficult to separate the school from the community. So getting involved in community would benefit the school and vice versa. So that's why you see I'm involved with Kong City. You might have locals in different villages in the parish. I would tend to be there because, I'm always scouting. I'm always on the move.
I hope your good friend Robert will remember that for later on.
I like when Mr. Handel spoke of athletes that cover a wide range of sports, and we in Grenada have had a wide history of that. And if to probably throw another chip in the favor of Mr. Handel, the last probably athlete like that or the last two probably out of McDonald College might have been Sean Merriman. That guy, like he's born a gold spoon. He's great at basketball, great at football, great on the track, cricket, you name it. And similar to him was probably like the likes of a Marcus Julian, was very good at both cricket and football. But Grenada has a rich history, and I can call, hundreds of athletes like that who played and excelled in 2 and 3 sports. I went to GBSS, and we were surrounded by so many of them. The first name that probably comes to mind is a Fabian Blake. Fabian at one time was captain of the intercall team, captain of the football team, captain of the cricket team, and he excelled at all. I mean, he played national cricket, national football. I mean, you think of a Ashley Jao Cyrus, volleyball, basketball, football, making on national levels of all. I don't want to blow my own horn, but my father, he first made it as a high jumper in Carifta. He also played representing the national football team and also national cricket team and went on to win Rhode Islands. You know, so there are many athletes like that. And I was looking at a program once and they said that's the reason why the Americans will always have good goalkeepers because they play so many different sports. And I think it's no surprise that we have good athletes who make it in the decathlon, like Lyndon Victor and his brother Toussaint, because we have athletes who can do the same. And but because look at intercall, you see some of the same athletes doing the 100, the 200, the 400, long jump, high jump, you name it. You know, so we are talented.
And obviously, Glenn.
Yeah, well, I would echo the sentiment of the Mr. Andal. Mr. Andal is spot on with what he's saying. We've seen the continuation, so it's not difficult. For example, with the St. Patrick team because they have been together and they have known each other for years, and that possibly have contributed to the success of the McDonald College. They are together. They have the community support. It didn't dawn on me that there were so many fields in St. Patrick's and those that are lit. I was saying to myself when Mr. Andal previously spoke about the timing and taking students out of school in light of what we faced with COVID. What about the possibility of maybe doing night games or earlier on Saturdays going into the night? But again, that would be a different kettle of fish as you separate school from community, because we know at some point in time teachers, while I may go the extra mile, and Mike, I would have to leave in a while to go to engage my team. Obviously Northern started and JW Fletcher, but how many teachers and other persons supporting you would find are in the school system and are going out on weekends to really reach out to our students? So that's why I think a collaborative effort is needed, and the younger the kids we are to take care of and reach out for is the more energy that is needed. But possibly it might be an idea to have some night games to cater for the secondary football.
Yeah, well, I looking forward to that, and thank you very much, Glenn.
Yes.
Thank you very much for being on the program. Okay. Yeah, and
Okay, Mike.
all the best with your team later on.
Yes, I'll keep you updated.
Thank you very much. Okay.
All right.
Okay, so that's Glenn there, but I want to go over to Robert and then Andal, because the point was being made about the sportsmen and sportswomen who are, doubling, tripling in some instances, and I think a name we forgot. We mentioned it earlier, but a name we forgot is actually Devon Smith. Huh?
Yeah, Smith was always good. I mean, Smith plays football for Hard Rock. Very good left winger. He's quick. Has a rocket of a shot. Very deceptive. Yeah, very good player. Yes, you're right. You're right. Yeah, Smith plays both football and cricket, but is more known for cricket because being a West Indian player.
Okay then, and Mr. Andal, Mr. Andal there on and how dare could you forget someone as the name of Devon? But it's interesting that you mentioned too that the playing fields. I think it's probably news to a lot of folks in terms of even the lighted. For me, I was thinking of only two. I think of.
Serious?
I was only thinking of two. While you were speaking about the playing fields, I wanted to interject and say, and don't forget the two lighted playing. But then you actually mentioned 6 out of.
Yes, remember we have Chantimel, 4 playing field, Rose Hill, River Solly, Hermitage. All these fields have been leased as we speak. But
Wow.
while we counting multi-talented athletes, Mr. Bascom, we must mention Mr. Jenard Paul. Jenard Paul played cricket for the Windward Islands. He played national football, played national volleyball. He also won a gold medal at Carifta in the long jump. You understand? So he was an excellent sportsman also, in the same vein of Marcus and Sharon Merriman. But right now I'm looking at the time and it's 25 minutes to 3. and being the manager, I have to reach the stadium at least an hour or two before.
Okay. Well,
So as much as I enjoy the discussion,
yeah.
and I see somebody just put a comment there about Boise. Boise captain the Grenada team. He also played for Windward Islands in cricket, and he was a footballer also.
Okay. And for the viewers, you're speaking of Boise the singer, right?
Yes, obviously Boise the singer. Boise the singer.
That's
So
interesting.
you see, we love that talent, because I remember even on Boise, I spotted Boise about 9 year old. As a 9 year old, walking on with his father with a bat and a ball. So Mr. Bascom, by the time he came in Form 1, I had him on the cricket team as a Form 1. As a 12-year-old, he was on the senior cricket team, playing with people like Marcus and others. So that's why you see, I think it's very, very important to spot our talent early and nurture them. Because the amount of persons who are fell by the wayside without the proper nurturing is a big loss to the country.
Okay.
So I must say it's a special privilege to be here. Once we talk sports, is like food for us.
Yeah. Well, I want to wish you all the best. And hopefully that you will be able to join us some other time. Well, Robert will stay with me for a few minutes because Robert is closer, and I want to hear and I'll be listening rather.
Okay, good.
Don't scold Robert. I know you'll have a talk with him after the game. You'll have a nice talk with him after the game. I want to wish you all the best, and hope the best team win. But it's nice to know that keen rivalry is back again in terms of football, and as you indicated, exciting players. And just probably before you leave, if you can just give us the names of some of the players that because we'll be listening and watching, we want to hear some of the names.
Remember, I'm the manager, so I already submitted the 18-man squad. I could tell you from my head.
Please do.
So we have Joe Max Wildman in goal. He's the son of Godwin Wildman, was a national keeper for years. So we have Joe Max Wildman, we have Wevel Benjamin, we have Quan Batiste, we have Brady Charles, Leon Braveboy, Tyler Lewis, he's a national under-20 player, Rickson Phillip, former national player, Michael Mack, former national player, Chad Mack, current national player, Stephen Whiteman, former national player. So all these players would be featured, and as I said, they have played for various teams in St. Patrick's as well as out of St. Patrick. They are motivated, they are keen, they're ready to go. We know it's a ball game. Anyone could win, anyone could lose. But I know we are giving to our best, and we're hoping to come one step closer to the ultimate prize. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you to be on this program, and it's time for me to leave.
Oh, okay. That's a nice way to leave. Thank you very much.
All right, sir.
Okay, then. So that's Mr. Andal there leaving us. But it was, it was a pleasure having Mr. Andal. We also had Mr. Glenn Alexander representing Combined Northerners and also JW Catholic Secondary School. And Robert, it was sort of interesting to hear from Glenn that things are looking up for Combined Northerners to be back again, organized and into organized football in Grenada.
Yeah, I would look forward to seeing them back as a prominent football team, as a competitive team. Well, let me not just say as a team, as a club, you know, so we could offer U15 or women's programs as well, youth programs, and your senior program, both for male and female. So that's very good. That combined Northerners, they are on the up. Um, Last week on during the commentary, I was mentioning to Leslie Smith that I have a soft spot in my heart for Honved, Fontenoy United, and SAFL because you know these are teams growing up as a child that they were always a strong team, or prominent, and always dominated in football. And it's sad to see how they have fallen aside. And out of the three, only Fontenoy seem as if they're about to, or they're rebounding. So, but you always want to see the prominent teams stay on the up. But it's life, and it's sport in life that one day you're on the top and tomorrow you're below, and you know it's always some fresh air being blown in the sporting arena with new emerging teams, new emerging talent, and it's always welcome. That's how you keep the sport alive and regenerating for years to come.
Okay, and the issue of the sports policy came up. I know, well, Chenny mentioned it. That's Mr. Joseph, and
Yes.
we hope to have Mr. Joseph sometime. Well, he gave his commitment for November to be on the program. But you have been listening to the program previously, and the whole issue of the sports policy would have been raised. What's your thoughts on the sports policy for Grenada?
Man, it has been talked about for so many years, and some would tell that yes, we do have policies, but is it being implemented? Is it being enforced? Because there are so many deficiencies in our various sporting disciplines, and so much help is needed in creating proper structure, regardless of whatever sporting discipline you're supporting or you're following. We need it. We need strong policies. Our island, being an island of only 100,000, is nothing to talk about. We can still be a force in swimming. We can still be a force in netball. We can in whatever sport we choose. Is again, but we need the structure, and it starts from the policies. It comes through to administrators and then down to the athletes. But the policies, that's your foundation. That's your guideline.
Well, it's interesting to know that there is talk about the sports policy once again, and hopefully that the effort that was made about 10 years ago can be back again, because as you indicated, and you know our previous um, you know presenters made the point that it's important that we get sports at the foundation level,
Yes.
and it's not just at the senior level. Most times we believe and we think that sports is just at the secondary school or when you leave secondary school, but
No.
it's important to get the sports started at a very early age.
You know what was heartbreaking? Something that Glenn said that, and I was surprised to hear that the ministry, I'm assuming it's the ministry of education, they took out, or probably might be the ministry of sports, but I mean, anyhow, they took out the PE teachers. So who's going to have the PE classes? I mean, are you going to have teachers having to teach their regular classes and still have to go and do PE? I'm not certain. So I'm sorry that he's not here to expand on that. But that's disheartening that there's a shortage of the, or there's been a removal of PE teachers in the schools.
Okay. Robert, let's move over to the administrative aspect. And I know you probably may be able to speak a lot about football in terms of administration. It seems, well, it seems, I should say, well, I don't know if it's because of COVID, there has been probably a simmering of tension within the Grenada Football Association that we have probably witnessed, experienced, probably about a year ago or so. It seems as if all is well for now.
I don't think all is well.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think all is well. But all would never be well in anything that you do. I mean, there's always room for improvement. There will be areas that need to be improved on. And sometimes people criticize just for opposing sake, and then there are those who would tell you they're not just only criticize, but they would have solutions. Um, for many years, there's been a lot of disputes in football. I mean, I'm speaking about the GFA. And there are certain people who dare not get involved in football because of those disputes. There are sponsors who don't give as much as as they probably could because of not being, they don't want to be associated with a brand that's always in bacchanal, always in confusion. And so many times you see the dirty laundry of the GFA being washed in the public, you know. And you can point fingers at executive members, you can point fingers at members of the secretariat, fingers can also be pointed at clubs. But GFA needs to get the act together, and things will never be perfect. But let's try your best to get it smooth. We have a lot of good talent in Grenada, and a lot of good talent in the diaspora who wants to play for Grenada as well. But nobody wants to be associated with a brand that's always in bacchanal or confusion.
And you're saying that in light of the tough assignments ahead. So the focus will have to be on preparing a national team. You do not have a national coach as yet. You know, you have to appoint a national coach. You have to get everything in place for these tough assignments ahead.
Bascom, look right now. I'm glad you mentioned it. As we're preparing for the Gold Cup and coming up against giants like Honduras and Panama, you have contract disputes being played out in public with the former national coach, Shalry Joseph, with his present assistant, Anthony Nixon Modest, and the manager, Carl Lee. Contract disputes being played out in the public. It's in social media, it's in the media. You don't need that. And these things be unsettling, not only to the secretariat, but also to players. Because when you have a situation that the management team, the staff that has brought us to the Gold Cup, almost half of them are no more, or on the borderline of being no more, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You don't need that. It's unsettling. And again, they need to get their act together. And they might take it for granted, oh, we have time, and Gold Cup is a few months. But you're coming up against giants who are years advanced in front of us.
Why do I say it, Robert? I don't know if you have been following the happenings with the TTFA, Trinidad and Tobago Football Association. Yeah. Have we learned from the past?
I'm not too sure. Some might say it's admirable that the TTFA thought that it could come up against the giant of that is FIFA. And some might say, oh, you can't buy the hand and feet. But if you're displeased, if you're not happy, you have a right to air your displeasures. Again, it's sometimes not what you do, it's how you do it. It's unfortunate to know that how things are being played out in Trinidad. At one time they were suspended, then again, they come up with suspension. Again, it's the players that are going to feel it the most when egos get involved, and you're so far happy, but this week we're going to know, right? This upcoming week, what the results of the case is going to be.
Yeah, but how much you think things like that affect the development of the sport? The whole issue of the normalization committee and all these sort of things. Grenada had its fair share as well, and it caused some issues. How much you think, especially for a nation as a football nation as Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah, it slows you down. It does slow you down. Because whatever happens on the top affects the tail, right? So it's a challenge that they have to overcome. Remember, they are also still in the qualifiers for the Gold Cup, and you have to play for every round you qualify, there's another round of qualify. But I think it's maximum 3 rounds of qualification they have to play in order to still get to the Gold Cup. So that must be unsettling to know that you have all those administrative problems and your players still have to function as if everything is okay. It filters down to them. They feel it and they get distracted. But let's hope that it doesn't distract them enough that they don't qualify. But yeah, you feel it on all levels, from the youth level up to the senior level, both male and female.
Okay, let me see. Nisha is asking who brought it to the public. It was not the GFA.
Well,
So
no, I mean, Nisha might say, it's not the GFA, and no one's pointing fingers if the FA did it or not. What I did say, it's out in public.
yeah, I think that.
And you don't need it, you don't need it. But again, Grenada is small and it's so easy for information to get out, so it happened. But let's try to minimize these things as much as possible. I know that there are those who will say, well, let's sign some kind of non-disclosure.
Yeah.
But
I to be honest,
work.
yeah, in Grenada, I don't think we need this non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, not just Grenada, but in this dispensation, what you need is transparency.
Yes.
You need transparency, especially in sports. Okay,
Yes.
and this non-disclosure agreement in sports, especially a place like Grenada, I think is nonsense. Sorry
I
about
agree with
that,
you.
but I don't agree with it, and it's unfortunate that a place as Grenada, we going into this thing where clubs or sporting associations are signing non-disclosure agreement, and to me it just brings what should I say? It brings more suspicion on the motives of some of the administrators, and as we see what's playing out in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay.
You are right. You are right. It looks dubious. It comes across as administrators who want to have their own way, who want to get away with certain nasty calls, and I agree with it. No way, not in Grenada.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate that we do have these things still permeating sports in Grenada, and hopefully that these things can be ironed out sooner or later. But I know, Robert, you have to go sooner or later, but I still want to, pick your brain on on the Pure Cup for later, because it seems that that's the big talking issue, for later. The matches again, the matchups again.
Right. So the first game at 6 o'clock is St. Patrick Crown City Strikers against St. Andrew Big Paris Stars, and the second game about 8:15 or so, you would have St. George Royal Cannons versus St. Mark Western Stars. The St. Mark Western Stars, they are primarily Hurricane, and I think last week during the commentary we were talking about them. Like you mentioned earlier, St. Patrick only has 2 secondary schools. That is St. Patrick. I mean, as a parish, Victoria as a town only has 2 clubs: Hurricanes and Sunsetters, and the bulk of them are cousins and brothers playing for these 2 various teams and neighbors. And I mean, let's face it, Victoria Hurricane, they have been the mecca of football in Grenada for decades. Very consistent, always strong. So on the parish level, it's not difficult to pick a team, and that team is going to have a wealth of not only experience but a true bond of chemistry. How do you break that? They all play in that one little playing field right in Victoria. They all go to the same secondary school, play on most of the same team. I mean, grew up through the same program. Most of them were coached by Andrew Monroe from a very early age. So how do you break that? Let's come to St. George Royal Cannons, where you have a pool of 19 or so clubs in the parish to choose your best 18 to 25 players from. It's tough. It is difficult, and you don't have as much teams from St. George in the Premier League, which is your top league. So again, even makes the job of the coach harder. Luckily for the Cannons, they have the likes of Anthony Modeste this year. First time coaching the Cannons, and you have seen the improvement. They're still not where they need to be at, but you have seen the improvement. And you will see that nice gelling of youth and experience. I saw people asking, oh, where is Curry and where is Patty? They have served their time and they have done well, but now is the time to unearth some new talent. the likes of a Christian James, a Raheem Stephen, a Raheem Griffith as well, a Kwesi Theodore, Kwasim Theodore. This is their time to shine. This is their time to prove themselves. Let's go along to St. Patrick, and they are. I think they're one of the older teams in the tournament. When you can call the name of a Michael Mark, better known as Bro, has been playing for many years, for more than a decade, has been on through in and out of the national makeup. Certainly in his 30s by now. He's still prominent on the team. You still have a Kwan Batiste on the bench, but you need the experienced players to help nurture the young ones coming through, nurture the Leon Brave boy, the Brady Charles, the Chad Mark, and the likes. And they are one of the favorites to win this tournament, but it's how you play on the night. And then you have the St. Andrew setup that is mostly a paradise setup, a successful setup. Many of them came through on their chest from the Assams Academy and gravitating to the Paradise Club. This tonight, I think the game one is should be the better game, should be the stronger game, more competitive game. No team should be considered a run over because once you qualify for semi-finals in whichever tournament, you are a threat and you should be respected.
Okay, dogs. Well, let's just go and see. We have some comments there. I'll come back to the night's game, but Chenny is saying, I guess we can have all board meetings on the sidewalk. If you are saying such, Michael, what does the requirements of non-profit regulations speak to in this regard? Margaret is saying, Chenny, Joseph, no, but it speaks to transparency and honesty. Yeah. If you're operating in good faith, then there is no need for an NDA. In fact, why do you need an NDA in sports anyway? It's mind-boggling to me. Nisha, Robert, you are a smart man. Game one is the best game. Obviously, St. Andrews, she's good. But going back to, Cheney's points, countering our points, and then Margaret is adding to it in terms of the NDA, Robert. I still don't understand, as you know, the need for an NDA in sports in Grenada. Sports in Grenada is primarily amateur. Primarily amateur. Why do you need and volunteer?
Yes.
Volunteer.
Yes, you're right.
Except for the football, who may have one or two, paid officers. But generally, even within the football construct, it's also a volunteer system. And it calls for, and especially in what the GFA and other associations have been going through over the years, it spells for transparency, okay? And I think the whole issue of an NDA at this time, I'm not in agreement. Should we therefore ask that all decisions be made public? It speaks to decisions being made. Chenny, I don't think that is the issue, but we can always discuss it, further in terms of the NDA and what it speaks to. We want transparency in sports. That's what we want. Transparency.
Yeah. When Mr. Joseph gets there in November, then he can elaborate on his point and defend his point. But all for now, and I think he's a minority of those who would be for an NDA. I think the majority you're against it, and with reason so. Again, you are right, Bascom. It speaks to transparency, and the bulk of people who are involved, they are volunteering. So why you want to put handcuffs over their mouth and tape over their mouth? It's a no. But for those who are for it, especially the likes of a Chenny Joseph, you get his chance in November when he comes to your program to elaborate and defend his point.
Yeah, and we're not making the point that everything that is discussed must be in the public domain. I don't think that is the point. It's just that there are certain things that must be of a public interest, okay?
Yes.
And especially where you want the public to be part and to trust the association, to trust, to buy into, you know, to buy into what you're selling them.
Yes.
There
Yes.
must be some level of transparency, and I think that is a point they're making. Obviously, there are certain things that will have to stay within the domain of executive meetings, etc., etc. Okay, but by and large, there are certain things that should be, public, and I think you should trust the public to provide them with information as it relates to that. So, Robert, what can patrons expect? I mean, apart from Nisha, who is, who, who is obviously supporting,
Yeah.
you
Big
know,
parish.
yeah, Big Parish, and then we have Andal with Crown City. But I think at the end, you will say football should be the winner, right?
Football should always be the winner. Let's hope, as mentioned earlier, that you'll have bigger crowds being allowed to attend the games, because it's especially for the players, they need that support. They need the 12th man behind their back. Whether they are up a goal, whether they're down a goal, you need the support of the fans. I remember in past times of this tournament, GFA even had um, parish t-shirts being merchandised, and it's only so much you can sell to 50 people, and many times it's a 50 who gets it almost every game. Could you allow, knowing that the two teams are playing, would you allow 25 fans of both teams? Given also you have four teams playing, do you allow 10 selected fans from all four teams? It's difficult because you need that support, your own support, not just a neutral 50 or somebody by chance supporting you because, well, you know what, you're playing a better football in the night. No, you need your home base support. The stadium is big enough to have adequate spacing, social distancing, to allow far more people to attend the games.
Okay, then. There is something there. Let me see. There's something there I want you to basically how I think it's coming from Cleve. He wants you to compare today's hurricane with the hurricane of the past. that's
Well,
a that's a tall order, eh?
yeah, that's all. I mean, I could probably compare hurricane growing up as a child in the late 80s into the 90s. I mean, I'm still pretty young, but I don't think they're as strong as compared to that period of the late 80s when you had the likes of, let's say, Arampa Forsyth and Andrew Monroe and the late Steve Mark and the likes. That era to me is a far stronger team as compared to the ones now. I think because they've been so consistent over the years, and yes, you have had that drop in football, they have still remained above that. But football in a whole has dropped off a lot. A lot. The quality, the style of football, the execution of technique and tactics have dropped off significantly. And so those who would have grown up in the 70s, 60s, 70s, you name it, they would always romanticize of that bygone era as compared to now what they're seeing. And now footballers now are exposed to way more facilities and way more resources on a whole. So why they are not doing as good, heavens knows.
Well, and as you would have seen that the actually had I think I'm trying to find out from him when that photo was actually in let me see. I'm trying to see if I can get some information as to when that yeah, here it is. Whoa,
That
that would
that
have
player to
been
the player to the back with the white wristband look like Alston George. I might be wrong, but that looks like him. That's the only face that sort of looks familiar to me. But yeah,
oh, okay. Well, um And then I also want to bring to the fore this photo here. It's actually, as Clev is saying, it will remiss on my part if I did not express condolences to the family of Winston Scipio, also known as Snooks or Southman, who resided at River Road and transcended and will be buried, I think, in the coming week. A former member, well, football player of Sporting Club. Well, you know, he played football. He was involved in PAN, I think, as well. He passed away in the week gone by, and I think this is a photo of him here, right at the back, in the middle, in the back row. That's Winston Scipio, okay, and one who played football years gone by, and he also was involved in PAN, I think. So sports and culture, you know, sports and culture, yeah. Well, Robert, I want to thank you, you know, for being part of the program today and giving your insights. And obviously, you'll be tuning in later on to listen to the and watch rather and listen to the matches on for later. And for those who, by the way, the 50 allowed are 50 who would have identify, or if I'm near to the stadium, can I just see if I can get in? That I mean,
Well, what Waggy has been doing is selling tickets in advance from.
oh, in advance. Okay.
Yeah. Megaforce has an office at the Bruce Street Mall. So if you're lucky enough to get that ticket, be a part of that 50, well, thank God.
Okay.
But the protocol has to be shifted. You know, I mean, hopefully for the final, you're going to see an allowance of a bigger crowd.
Okay. Well, Glenn is asking about your comments on game 2.
I think St. Mark, they are going in as favorite. It's a hard one to call. I think they do have the edge, but St. George has been I think, one of the stronger teams in defense. Similar to St. Patrick, they have not been scoring goals on top. Though Kwesi Theodore, he has scored one in each game that they have played. And they came from a stronger group. Though the group only had 3 teams, the Dolphins, the Cannons, and Big Paris Stars, it was a stronger group as compared to the group with the U17, the top strikers of St. David, and St. Patrick and St. Mark. The only true challenging game for St. Patrick, or should I say St. Mark, was St. Patrick. So they only had one challenging game, whereby St. George, they had to come up against Big Parish, which they drew 1-1, and the Dolphins, which they won 2-1. So it's a tough one. And to the winner goes the spoils, you know. So may the best team win.
All right. Well, Shen is just wrapping up with saying that facilities have never and will never develop talent. Proper sports science and sports medicine professionals develop talent.
Yes and no, but you still need facilities to train and to develop that talent. You need facilities. You need proper facilities. Think of training on a field or on a court that's just dilapidated. That has you have to run through cow dung. You have to dodge little holes on the field. You know, you're on a basketball court. Whatever deficiencies you may have there, you need facilities to help train and to bring out your best. You do. Everything has a factor. Whether it's your facility, whether it's the medicine, whether it's your nutrition, more time you spend in the gym. There are so many contributing factors. Not one factor is the all answer. There are many factors that help in the development of the athlete and contributes to his or her success or failure.
Oh, kiddos. Well, let me see. There is okay. Clev is actually asking if the games are carried live. Yes, it's live on TR Communications. TR Communications. Yeah, they carried live on Facebook. Also, the GFA Facebook page also has a live link for the matches. The first game kickoff is at what time again?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. and we do have a double header.
Yes, and the second game is at about 8:15.
Yeah, just around 8 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay then. Well, thank you very much, Robert. It was a pleasure having you on for the past 2 hours. Thank you also to Glenn Alexander, to Carl Andal, and all the others who provided comments on the program. It's an invitation to join us on Thursday when we have the Talk Sports. It's at 6:30 in the evening, and we do have a guest in studio with us. And then we continue. We back on the road with our guests from next Saturday. Thank you very much, Robert. All the
Thank
best.
you.
Okay
Thanks.
then. Okay then. So that was Robert Samuel. Robert, as you know, has been providing lots of commentary. He's very talented in terms and knowledgeable, I should say, in terms of sports, and he has been doing a very fine job in terms of the Pure Grenada Cup, and has been a mainstay of football commentary for the past few years. I want to congratulate Robert and Leslie Smith and others who have been doing the honors in terms of football commentary. I thought they have brought a lot of life into the coverage, and I want to also applaud the GFA for ensuring that there is live coverage of the football, and I know the Grenada Cricket Association is also considering a similar feat in terms of carrying their matches live as well. So COVID has, as we said, despite the pandemic and despite the chaos, despite the deaths, despite all that COVID, the evilness that COVID brought, created some opportunities. And I think what we can do is try to come out stronger from the pandemic. So, folks, once again, it's a pleasure for you joining us today. As we said, it's once in a while we'll have this open forum where you, the viewers, can chime in with your own observation. You have suggested that you need some time to provide your own analysis, your own feedback, and what it was refreshing to hear from Mr. Carl Andal, who is also the acting principal of MacDonald College and representing the North. And then we had Glenn Alexander. Nice to hear that Combined Northerners is, reorganizing in terms of a club, proper club structure. Nice to hear that. And then we had from Robert Samuel, who is a sports commentator, giving us a whole roundup of the Pure Grenada Cup and other suggestions in terms of sports development on the island. And as usual, the folks who have been providing their comments, Cleve Depredine, Lincoln Toro Depredine, Margaret Francis. Thank you, Chenny, for the comments. We'll have a discussion. And by the way, Chenny has agreed to be on the program in November. In fact, he'll be there, I think, the day before his birthday. I don't know if he specifically requested that day, but it will be the day before his birthday. And oh, yes, Richie Hughes has agreed. It's just a matter of getting him on at some point in time. Richie Hughes. I've been in contact with Richie. I still have to confirm with people like Pamela and others. We have quite a number of folks who have agreed, but just need to be scheduled into. We're trying to be as flexible as possible. So we're trying to, fit them into a schedule, provide dates, and they will choose which dates they think that can fit into their schedule. So yes, we also have Mr. Cecil Greenwich, who has also agreed and suggested a date. Mr. Bonnie Wilson, who has agreed and expected to be on the program sometime in the future. Mr. Bruce Swan. Quite a number of folks we have invited. They have agreed. Some have declined, expected, But those who have agreed said, no problem. They just need to find a suitable time when they can make the effort. And in some instances, they want to get some information in terms of gathering their facts, gathering their memory, as Michelle did. You know, although she had a short period of time to get her memory together, but she did pretty well. And certainly we'll have Michelle some other time again. And by the way, Mr. Ram Folks, who we had very early in the program, has agreed to come back because he has some more information he wants to discuss and things like that. We have at least 2 or 3 persons who I think have agreed to return on the program in the future. Not that they want to take the slot of others, but whenever it's convenient for them to be on the program again, they will be on the program. And so Ram Folks is one, and I trust that it will be another interesting program from Mr. Folks, as we had with Mr. Folks and Mr. Paul Roberts and Michelle Hercules. Walter St. John, Ray Roberts, and Rich Pereira, and quite a few of them, folks. Mr. George Goatee Robinson is expected to be on our program in the future, and he has also agreed and should be able to share a lot of information with us in terms of not just track and field, but sports in particular. So, folks, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for keeping me company, and I hope to see you around on Thursday, 6:30, when we do have another program. Until then, I want you to stay safe, and remain positive, okay? And when I say remain positive in terms of the mindset, in terms of your focus, okay? But you have to stay negative, though. Stay negative from the COVID. Take care. I see you soon.